So to me it feels like I read an entire library this month because I had essays and presentations to do, but it turns out I only read 3 books for pleasure, so... The first book that I read this month was V for Vendetta by Alan Moore and David Lloyd. This is a graphic novel and it is technically set in the future because it was written in the 80s and set in the 90s. It's a dystopian future set in England and it's all about V's attempts to overthrow the totalitarian government. And a female character called Evie is kind of roped in to helping him. I had a lot of high expectations for this graphic novel, but unfortunately it didn't really live up to them. So I'll kind of give one thing that I liked about it, then one thing that I didn't like about it, and then one that I did and one that I didn't, because I don't like to be too negative. So I liked the initial kind of mystery and intrigue surrounding V as a character. Unfortunately by the end of the book I found V to be kind of annoying, and in the end I was just thinking, oh, can you not talk in normal people sentences? Like, do you have to always talk in quotes and riddles? Because I couldn't be doing with that. Another thing that I liked was that I thought the ending was quite realistic, and another thing that I didn't enjoy about it was the artwork. I'm not saying that it's not everyone's cup of tea, it's just that I think I prefer like a more cartoony kind of thing, and this was more gritty and realistic. Something that I've just thought of about the art is that it kind of reminds me of like political cartoons, which is quite fitting when you think about it, considering the story. I ended up giving this one a 2.5 out of 5 stars because it had some merit, but in the end it just wasn't for me. The next thing I read was a short story collection called New World Fairy Tales by Cassandra Parkin. This is a collection of 6 retold fairy tales and they are all adapted for adults and set in America in the modern day. One thing that I didn't even notice about this book was that it takes all of the magical and fantastical elements out of the fairy tales, and I honestly didn't even notice that while I was reading it. I feel like the writing completely made up for the lack of fantasy in it. I thought that the stories were really, really imaginative. I also thought that the character voices were really well done and really set up the idea of the place. I also really liked that the stories were really diverse. There were a lot of different sexualities and races, and it was really reflective of real life in that way. I said more about this book in my review of it, so I'll leave that link in the description down below. And I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, really enjoyed it, and I'd recommend it for anyone who isn't an expert at short stories as something to kind of like bridge the gap, because fairy tales are short stories and everyone knows and loves fairy tales, and I think reading this book kind of bridges that gap between short stories that we're used to as children and the short stories that are written for adults. And the last book that I read this month was a book that I had to read for uni, and that was Rant by Chuck Palahniuk. I did an essay on this one, so I'm kind of a little bit sick of seeing it right now, but overall I really love this one. This is written in the style of an oral history, which is when a lot of different people tell the different accounts of one particular person. In this case it is America's greatest serial killer called Buster Casey, or Rant Casey. Obviously it's fictional, but it's written in the style of non-fiction. Now, Chuck Palahniuk's books aren't everyone's cup of tea, so I want to put that warning out there. He's very graphic sometimes, and he does that on purpose. It's called on the body writing, where he wants you to feel something in your gut. With this book I would recommend when you finish reading it, go back to the first chapter and read that. Hello. My mum just came in. She's making me a cup of tea. Yeah, I would definitely recommend reading the first chapter again once you've finished, because you will be completely gobsmacked. Or at least I was. When you read the beginning again, you start to realise that every single sentence has been perfectly crafted to create this double meaning that doesn't come about until you get to the end and understand the context behind everything. It's complete madness, but there is method to the madness. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. It's one of my favourites this year. It was my first Chuck Palahniuk book, and those are all of the books that I read this month. So now I'm going to wrap up some of the films that I saw this month. I watched The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I watched this with my boyfriend and my parents, and I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. I love it so much. The soundtrack is amazing, and I also thought the cinematography in that film was absolutely gorgeous. I also watched Jack Ryan's Shadow Recruit, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of watched it for Chris Pine. I'm not gonna give a review of this or anything, I just wanted to give you a quote from the film that I think is really apt. Regret, it piles up around us like books we haven't read. I just thought that was perfect for book lovers. In my screenwriting class we also watched Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and we watched it in 3 parts, so it was kind of even weirder than it actually is. I don't want to say what it's about, but I will just say that it is a really, really good film, and if you like being confused, you should definitely watch it. It stars Jim Carrey in a serious role, Kate Winslet, Mark Ruffalo, Elijah Wood, what's Mary Jane from Kirsten Dunst. It's got quite a good cast, and I think the film is done really, really well. It's very disorienting and it's all very psychological. It's very, very good. I watched a lot of films this month. I also watched Little Miss Sunshine. It's just all about this family that are trying to get to a beauty pageant contest, and it's about their adventures on the way and their family dynamics, and also the character arcs are so well done. I really like that film. And of course I went to see the midnight showing of Mockingjay Part 1 with my best friend. I went to see it even though I had a 9 o'clock seminar the next morning, and I have no regrets. I'm really happy that they've chosen to split the last book into 2 films. I feel like it would have just felt really rushed if they'd have just gone straight to District 13 and bam 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 the end. Like, it just wouldn't have felt as set up for the ending. And to tie in with The Hunger Games, I thought I would talk about a TV show in the UK called I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. I've been watching this with my mum and dad. I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, for those that don't know, is a TV programme where we send a group of celebrities into the jungle in Australia, and the public will vote for who they want to do these horrible, horrible trials where they'll have to eat bugs and other disgusting things, and they have to do this to get stars, and the stars translate into food for them. So it's kind of like the Hunger Games, except there isn't any killing each other, although there is a lot of arguing and drama in the jungle. That's been pretty interesting to watch at the same time as thinking about Mockingjay. Parallels there are a little bit scary. Another reality TV show that I watch every year with my parents is The Apprentice, the UK version, and this is basically Game of Thrones without the killing each other. Can you see a weird pattern to the reality TV I watch? It's kind of scary. I really enjoy watching this every year with my parents because it's one of the only times of the year that we'll sit and watch a TV show together, so that's quite nice. I'm also really loving Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2. I do not trust any of the new characters because Season 1 destroyed my trust in people. As for music, this month I've been listening to a lot of folk, and for individual songs I'm really enjoying Left Hand Free by Alt J, Stevie and Bumblebee by Kasabian, Kill Your Heroes by AWOLNATION, Heart and Soul by Twin Atlantic, Back to You and Kiss Me Darling by Twin Forks, Home by Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros, Step Out by Jose Gonzalez, which is from the Walter Mitty soundtrack, and When We Were on Fire by James Bay. I guess that was my November favourites playlist. And that's all for this month's wrap up. I hope you've all had a really, really good November and are excited for December and all the things you're going to get up to. There's a lot to be excited this December, so like, comment, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you next time. Bye!